advertising website guidelines for CA forms and code of conduct. And we have amidst us renowned speakers, CA Maitri Roy Madam and Advocate Vijay Kumar Jhalani sir. So without any delay, I would request CA Hina Madam to give introduction to CA Maitri Madam.
Hello.
Yes, CA Hina Madam, you could please go ahead.
Audible?
Yes, you're audible, madam. Just speak a little louder.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I welcome you all for today's wonderful session. I would like to introduce CA Maitri Roy, who is a practicing chartered accountant, certified fraud examiner with 15 years of work experience in audit, internal control system reviews, control risk assessments, process reviews, corporate governance, banking operations, fraud investigations, money laundering controls, quality management system. Maitri Roy was a special invitee to the Ethical Standard Board ICIS Central Council 2021, member of FRRB of ICIS Central Council, and member in Ethical Standard Board ICIS Central Council 21-22. She is an avid marathon runner and loves adventure sports. I would like to Maitri Roy ma'am to take over the session and continue the session.
Thank you, Hina madam. Before we start the session, I request CS Swapnil Kolte to address us for a few words, please. Vice Chairman CS Swapnil Kolte.
स्वप्निल नहीं है शायद.
Okay, thank you so much. Maitri madam, you could please take the session now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shall we start the session or?
Yes, madam, we'll start. Madam.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will start sharing my screen. Yes, it is. Are you able to see the screen, sir?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Today, our topic is revised code of ethics, important provisions. I will take this session. Jhalani sir will give you practical example how this code is working and what are the disciplinary actions and what are the disciplinary threats we come across. So in this session, I will quickly go through the important provisions. It is you can tell it is basically a brisk walk type of revisions to the code of ethics. Now let's start. So what is code of ethics? Every profession, whichever profession, maybe it is a medical profession or engineering or CAS, every profession is having their own code of ethics. The Chartered Accountant Act 1949 has enacted by the Parliament for regulation of our chartered accountant and for the purpose of carrying out the objective of the Act. Chartered Accountant Regulation 88 is the base, basically. 88 and 1949 both are the base of our code of ethics. We will discuss here 2019 Code of Ethics. 2019 Code of Ethics is the 12th edition of Code of Ethics. First time that Code of Ethics segregated in different volume. If you compare it from 2009 and 2019, you will see in 2019 it is segregated in volume 1, volume 2 and volume 3. Members here are given opportunity to become aware of the revised code and be prepared for its implementations throughout various awareness programs. E-version of code is also available in ICAI website and various awareness program, as I told you earlier, is there to assist the member in this effort. Now we will discuss what are the basic difference in 2009 and 2019. In 2009, you will see in the old version, it is divided in A and B, which was remain valid up to 30th June 2020. Part A was based on ISBA code, as the ISBA code which was suitably incorporated, and Part B was on domestic provision governing to the member. Now in 2019, Volume 1, which is a revised counterpart of Part A, is based on ISBA Code of Ethics. Volume 2 is the revised counterpart of Part B, and Volume 3 is the compilation of disciplinary case laws. Now, Code of Ethics 2019. This, as I told you and mentioned, that this is derived from ISBA, which has been issued by International Federation of Accounts. ICAI Code of Ethics has been revised in January 2019 based on 2018 edition of ISBA Code of Ethics, and it is applicable to all the members from 1st July 2020. Now, majorly this code is designed in this principles. The Code for Professional Accountants set out the fundamental principle of ethics for professional accountant, reflecting profession's recognitions in public interest responsibility. Code establish and demonstrate standard expected behavior of a professional accountant. This code provide a conceptual framework and guidance in order to identify, evaluate, and address threats. This code also set out the requirements and application material of various topics to help accountant to apply conceptual framework wherever is required. In case of audit and assurance engagement, code sets out the independent standard. Now we will quickly discuss what is the Volume 1 of Code of Ethics. So the overview structure of Code of Ethics Volume 1, Part 1, it is applicable to all professional accountant, complying with the code, fundamental principle and conceptual framework. Professional accountant in service, Part 2, professional accountant in service, which include professional accountant employed, engaged, contracted in an executive, non-executive capacity. In public sector regulatory bodies, individual professional accountant in public practice when performing professional activities in pursuant to their relationship with a firm as an employee. Part 3, dealing with professional accountant in public practice. Independent standard discussed in Part 4A and 4B. And you will see glossary which include all the abbreviations at the end of this Volume 1. Now, what are the major changes in 2019 Volume 1? If we compare from 2009. In 2019, the first thing is that independent section renamed as International Independent Standard. Drafting pattern has been changed. Use of shall, may, and might you will find in the sections if you go through the sections. New pattern of structuring of section has been adopted. Responsibility increased in 2019 code relating to the compliance of the firm, networking, individual within the firm. The requirement of the code is designated with the letter R. Similarly, application material are designed by letter A. Application material basically providing explanation, suggestion, and matter to consideration. Paragraph R 400.80 to R 400.89 and R 900.50 to 900.55 of the code address the breach of independent standard. Professional accountant who identify the breach of any other provision of the code shall evaluate the significance of the breach and its impact on the accountant ability to comply with the fundamental principle. So there is a guidance basically how to comply with if they come across any breach. Now we will see what is the requirement and application material, and this requirement and application material is very important Because once we start reading the code, we will come to understand which is absolute necessary, which is a optional one. So it is to be read and applied with the objective of complying with the fundamental principles, applying the conceptual framework, and while performing audit review and other assurance engagement, being independent. Now, requirements are designed with the letter R, and most cases, as we are discussing earlier, that it include what shall. The what, wherever the what shall is is there, it imposes an obligation of professional accountant or firm to comply with the provision specifically. In some situation, you will find the code provide you specific exception. In such situation, although letter R is there, but it is conditional wording like may is also used there. Now, when may what is used, that means permission to take a particular action, or there is some exception that a professional accountant can apply. The what may not means the possibility or probability, means it is not any statistical terminology. It is not at all meaning some possibility or probability. The what might means a possibility of occurrence or arise of any matter, and a course of action can be taken for the same. But again, this word not defined cause or impact or possibility of any threat, although it is used in some places in conjunction with the threat. So, there are a few sections where you will find the word might is used, but a threat has been addressed. So it is not give you any quantification of the threat that might has been used. So it is a possibility or probability, or the importance of the threat may decline or decrease. It is not, because any threat, the impact of the threat we need to assess to various factors. How much is the amount, how it is affecting the public at a large, how it is affecting the regulations and laws. Lot of thing is there. So so it is not meaning that the might is used so that the importance of the threat getting less. Application, how I told you earlier, that application material is intended to help a professional accountant to understand how to apply conceptual framework to a particular set of circumstances and to understand and comply with that specific requirement. It includes a lot of example. When you go through the code, you will see there are a lot of examples provided by ICAI to understand as the scenario and with where that code can be applied. But again, it is not limited to that particular example and scenario itself. It may vary. So it is our basically logic we need to apply. How we can effectively use the code in all the circumstances. Now I will discuss very briefly that what are the major takeout of volume 1. So major takeout of the volume 1 is breaches of the code, which is section 400.80 to 400.89. It is a newly introduced in volume 1. Volume 1 again defined key audit factor. Firm rotation, section 550, again newly introduced section. Partner rotation, section 540, again newly introduced section. Not to assume management responsibility, discussed in section 607 and 608, newly introduced section. Non-assurance services, section 600 and 950, new provision of recruiting services, newly introduced section. Defined application of various safeguards to eliminate threats and identification of threats, section R120.11, newly introduced. Requirements of documentation given in very elaborate way, that how we can take the documentation. It was there in 2009 Code of Ethics, but the elaborated way has been done in 2019, and it is discussed in section 290.27. Redrafting of definition of close and immediate family. Definition of public interest entity, section 4008, again newly introduced section. Guidelines on changes in professional appointment, section 320, newly introduced section. Elaboration in the guidelines of inducement, gift and hospitality. section 250 and 340. This was there. In 2009, it was there, but this guideline is elaborated in 2019, covering a lot of things. Its scope has been increased. Define criteria of indebtedness materiality of the loan. Section 511.3E1, it is a newly introduced section. Council guideline on contingent fees, regulation 192, read with section 33410.9 and 905.6. This was also there in 2009, but again scope has been increased. Application of provision for member in practice and member in service. Section R 120.4, 200.4, R 300.5. All these three sections are newly introduced. Guideline for preparation and presentation of information, section 220. It is also newly introduced in volume 1. So here in this slide, I just boldly discuss what are the major changes or major elaboration, major inclusion happened in volume 1 2009 if we compare it from 2019. 2019 if we compare it from 2009. Now this volume 1 2019 has some application restrictions. Not all sections are till the date applicable. It is a council decision in its 393rd meeting that there will be few sections which will not applicable. All other section and provision of the revised code of ethics will be applicable for 1st July. So these are responding to non-compliance of laws and regulation, NOC-LAR, section 260 and 360. Fees relative size, paragraph 410.3 to R 410.6. Taxation services to audit client, subsection 604. Now we will discuss what is the fundamental principles of Code of Ethics. So there are 5 fundamental principles of Code of Ethics which is discussed in volume 1, which are integrity, objectivity, professional competence, confidentiality, and professional behavior. Now, based on this 5 fundamental principles, there are 5 fundamental traits also. That is self-interest traits, self-review traits, advocacy traits, familiarity traits, intimidation traits. So when we will take any audit assignment or we will do any review, we need to assess trait in this 5 category to understand that what will be our action as a professional accountant. Now I will go to volume 2 of Code of Ethics. Now what is volume 2? Structure of volume 2 is again divided in 5 major areas. Chapter 1, Accounting and Auditing Standard. Chapter 2, the Chartered Accountant Act, first schedule and second schedule. Chapter 3, Council Guideline for Advertisement. Chapter 4, Other Council Guidelines, 2008. Chapter 5, Self-Regulatory Measure recommended by the Council. Now, what are the major takeout of Code of Ethics Volume 2, 2019? Changes in CA Amendment Act 2011, amendment in CA Regulation 1988, changes in Council Guideline in Audit and Accounting Standard, Companies Act 2013, and changes due to Code of Ethics 2019. Council decision and clarification given by ESB and other committee since 2009 included there. Changes in advertisement guideline and council decision is also included in volume 2. Changes in commentary under clause 6 and clause 7 of part 1 of first schedule pertaining to solicitation and advertisement incorporated in volume 2, 2019. Changes in commentary under clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule pertaining to communication also incorporated in volume 2. So these 5 are the changes, or you can say new addition, changes, or elaboration of volume 2 if we compare it from 2009. Now we will discuss a very briefly a common CA logo guideline. So as a part of our ongoing drive to promote our brand CA and CA profession in India, ICA come up with a unique logo. Now members sponsoring the activities like corporate social responsibility may mention their name with prefix CA. However, mention of firm name or CA logo is not permitted. So if you go to the CA logo guideline, you will see that there were some specific cases where you cannot use the logo. It is one of the cases where a member is participating in a CSR activity. In that case, member can individual name can be mentioned with the prefix CA, but firm name or CA logo can't be mentioned. The use of CA logo in the stamp is permissible subject to CA logo guidelines. Management consultancy firm, that is corporate form of practice, shall neither be permitted to advertise nor use the logo. The logo can be used on the letterhead, visiting card, etc. And council had decided that logo unconnected with the first name of the firm and its partner or proprietor would not be permitted for use in the member in practice or firm of chartered accountant. This is the last thing, that use of logo by the member on letterhead or visiting card, which should not be connected to the first name of the firm or first name of the practicing CA itself or the member itself. I will elaborately discuss you later, and I will give you some example that why it is not allowed and how it has been used, because we came across few situations where it has been really used like that. It is not allowed. We cannot use CA logo with our first name because it is tantamount to advertisement or publicity. Now we will discuss very briefly what are the corporate form of practice. Management consultancy and other services are permitted by the council in pursuance to section 2.24 of the CA Act. Now the expression management consultancy and other services shall not include function of statutory or periodical audit, tax, both direct tax, indirect tax, representation or advice concerning tax matter, acting as liquidator, trustee, executor, administrator, arbitrator or receiver. Council decided to allow member in practice to hold the office of managing director, full-time director, manager of a body corporate within the meaning of Companies Act 1956 to provide body corporate engage exclusively in rendering management and consultancy and other services permitted by the council in pursuant of section 2.2.4 of the CA Act, and which comply the specific condition given by the council time to time. And it is a caution always given to the member that no audit practice can be done under corporate form. Only consultancy practices done by individual or firm status alone is now indeed to be permitted in corporate form. So in a management and consultancy and other services mode, we cannot do any audit, but we can do permitted consultancy that we will see in later slide, which are the practices are permitted by corporate form of practice. These are permitted: financial planning, financial management planning, working capital management, project report preparation, budgeting, inventory management, market research, demand studies, cost control and value analysis, management and operational audit, valuation of shares, business and advice regarding amalgamation, merger, acquisition, registered valuer under Companies Act 2013, business policy, corporate planning, organization development, diversification. Computer related service, system analysis design, EDP based service, advisor or consultant to an issue, example drafting or prospectus, drafting and filing listing agreement, preparation of publicity budget, post issue support, etc. In investment consultancy in respect of securities, acting as registered when issued and for transfer of shares and other securities, quality audit, environment audit, energy audit, recovery consultant in banking sector, Insurance financial advisory under IRDA Act 1999, including insurance brokerage, but not insurance agency. Insolvency professionals, administrative services. Now, administrative services, we should read with section 602 of volume 1 and section 2.2.4 of CA Act, because there are few administrative service which we cannot deal with. So it is not that we can do all the administrative services. Few example of such type of administrative services are word processing service, administrative or statutory form, statutory filing date, advisory or monitoring. This type of services we can provide under corporate form of practice, but there are restrictions. So if we go to section 602 of volume 1 and section 2.2.4 of CA Act, we will come to understand what administrative practice exactly allowed, what are not allowed. Organizational structures and behavior, development of human resource, including design and conduct and training, work study, job description, job evaluation. These all are the permitted practice under corporate form of practice. Now we will briefly discuss what is the advertisement guideline. I'm discussing you very briefly because Jalani sir will give you a broad practical example of all this. So I just make you aware that what are the guidelines are. The member may advertise to a writer. You will find it in volume 2. So this write-up means writing particulars according to the information given in the guideline, setting that services rendered by the member or firm, and writing or display of the particulars of the member in practice of the firm, issued, circulate, published by way of print or electronic mode, or otherwise included in newspaper, journals, magazine, website in accordance with the guideline. So this particular advertisement guideline will come to effect when we member, when somewhere or we giving some lecture, we are introducing ourselves, or we are writing something in the journal, we need to give our brief descriptions that is circulated among others. So in that case, how we can give a write-up, that is actually discussed in advertisement guideline, which is both push as well as pull method. So we will see what are the provisions of this. It should be presented in such a manner, it should maintain our professional dignity, ability to serve the public interest. The member should ensure that content of the write-up is true and to the best of knowledge and belief and in conformity with the guidelines of the ICAI, and it should not have something which is incorrect, and which content is tantamount to create any sort of misunderstanding to the public at large. The council has permitted network among the firm registered with the institute. A member of the network may advertise the number of networking firm, the name of the networking firm, to the extent permitted by the advertisement guideline issued by the institute. So if any member is among any network, he or she is allowed to mention the name of the network firm, and the network firm must be registered with ICAI. Now that how a write-up can be. So in that write-up, name of CA, membership number with the institution, age, date of becoming ACA, FCA, date of holding COP, recognized qualification, language known, telephone number, mobile fax number, professional address with email address, CA logo, passport size photograph, details of employee number, like how many CAs are there, other professional articles, name of the employees, and any other particular line which is allowed for a member just stated above can be incorporated in the write-up. And most important, they can also mention service provided by them. Similarly, for firm, name of the CA firm registration number with the institute, year of establishment, firm professional address, working hours, telephone number, mobile number, web addresses, email, number of partner, number of proprietor, number of partner, name of the proprietor and partners, particulars on the line mentioned for the members as just stated in the earlier slide, including their passport size photograph can be mentioned in the write-up. CA logo, details of employee, number of chartered accountant, number of other professional, number of article assistant and other employee in that firm can be mentioned. Name of the employee of the firm and other particulars in the line allowed for a member stated above. So stated above, and obviously service provided. So in any write-up, you can mention this as per council guideline. Now we will continue with advertisement guidelines. So write-up should not be false or misleading or bring profession into reputation. The writer should not claim superiority over any other member of firm. So in my write-up or anything, when we are drafting, we should be very cautious that anything we should not write which give an impression of superiority of that member or superiority of the particular firm. The writer should not be indecent, sensational, or otherwise such manner that it will bring professional to disrepute. Like a magnificent CA firm or a superior quality audit. So this type of wording is not allowed. Writer should not contain testimonial or endorsement concerning members. So whenever I am giving some write-up, my language should not be there, which is giving any kind of testimonial from anybody and endorsement. Even endorsement from the member also considered here. So any kind of endorsement is no. Any kind of testimonial is no. Writer should not contain all this. Writer should not contain any other representation that may like to cause a person to misunderstand or to be deceived. So, like my write-up, if suppose I am maybe for example, suppose I am having some other professional degrees. Now, in my write-up with CA, if I mention that professional degrees also, which create a misunderstanding, so that is not allowed. Again, or to be deceived means I am writing something or I am writing on the behalf of something which may cause deceivedness to the person. Again, that is not permissible. The write-up should not violate the provision of the Act and rules made thereunder and the Chartered Accountant Regulation 1988. So the provisions of the Act means the council guidelines just we mentioned, and the rules and regulations in soliciting and advertisement should not be hampered. Section 6 and Section 7 first schedule of our CA Act. Writer should not include the name of the client, both present and past. We are not allowed in any write-up to write down the name that we served this client, we have served this client. Currently, I have this many of big corporate client and this many of this type of client, this segment of client I am servicing. I am doing currently audit of that. It is not allowed. We can only mention in a broad aspect the service provided, like we provide GST service, income tax service. Like that way we can write. We cannot write that I have done GST audit of that particular company. It is not allowed. Write-up should not be a font size of 14. It should not exceeding font size of 14 rather than. The writer should not contain any information other than stated in paragraph 3 above. Paragraph 3 above means this one. This is the paragraph 3 of the advertisement guideline where they mention for members and CA firm that what we can write in our write-up. So we should adhere to that principle. Now, write-up should not contain any information about achievement, award, or any other provision held. In my own write-up, which is in circulation, which I'm giving as a member of the institute, I'm not allowed to write any achievement. Suppose I get some prize. Suppose if I win some contest, some beauty contest, suppose, and I got a prize. I awarded as a beauty queen. I'm not allowed to write that achievement in my write-up. That is not allowed as per advertisement guideline. And when I'm representing myself as a CA. So even if I'm holding any other position which is not related to my professional dignity, means with my ICAI CA membership dignity, I'm not allowed that. So I cannot write in my write-up that I'm holding suppose a position in my family trust maintained by us. It is not allowed. The particular of information required in para 2 of 3A and para 2 of 3B is mandatory. Para 2 of 3A and para 2 of 3B is the membership number and FRN number. These two are important. So any write-up, we need to give this information in a mandatory basis. Now we will continue with the advertisement guidelines. We will go to the website guidelines. This website guidelines again are adaptation from advertisement guideline. The council approved the detailed guideline of posting a particular website of CA firm in practice and firm of chartered accountant in practice. Now the actual format of the website is not defined because instead want to give independence to the member. But it has been mentioned that as per advertisement guideline, this website are run on a pull model, not push model of technology, to ensure that any person wish to locate the chartered accountant or chartered accounting firm would only have the access to the information that provided on the basis of specific pull request. Now, what is pull request and what is push request? Pull model is that write-up, just we discussed the write-up, what is given in the advertisement guideline, we give information according to that guidelines. We give that much information. That is a pull method, which are basically the basic information. Now, what is the push method? Push method is that sometime we provide few information on the which is not falling under this category. Now in the category, it is specifically told you that service provided. We can write service provided, definitely, that we provide this service under our firm in the our firm website. But suppose we will give you some thing, price quoting, then it is obviously not a pull request, it is a push request. I am presenting myself in a push model, that I am myself giving you the code. You see, for this particular job, I'm giving you this code, and it is readily available in my website. Anybody can go and access. So that is a push kind of, because push model is that you are giving information which is not related, which is not the basic information, which actually you are just downloading the information to the client or the person who are visiting in the website. This is a kind of, you can tell that it is a kind of extra information you are giving to promote yourself over and above the basic information. On the line of that, 14th October 2020, ICA come across with the advisory, which is related to the website. The clause 6 and 7 of first schedule of CA Act bar solicitation and advertisement. The website guideline is formulated by the council in such a manner that member can have their own website. They are allowed to give a write-up, but without hitting the provision of Section 6 and Section 7 of Part 1 first schedule, which is advertisement and solicitation. And also, it is obligatory to comply with the guidelines of the Council in terms of the provision of Clause 1 of Part 2 of first schedule to the Act. Non-compliance with any guidelines issued by the Council is deemed as professional misconduct in terms of the provision of above mentioned clause. Now we will discuss what we commonly observe error in a firm website. I will discuss briefly. There are 29 types of error which are commonly advised in a firm website. If you go and which are actually affecting Section 6 and Section 7. It is all tantamounting harassment. Jalani sir will give you all practical example of all this, that what happened actually. Now mention of the names of client logo. What we were discussing at the beginning, the CA firm logo, mention the name of client and client logo with the name of CA. We observe it is observed in the CA firm, so it is not allowed. Writing firm name in a manner which is tantamounting to logo and monogram. Mention of professional fees or fact providing service free of charge. Again, barred in our write-up advertisement guideline. Using photograph other than passport size photograph, including event galleries of photographs. Use of expressions such as leading firm, based firm, top firm, superiority claiming. Claiming to have liaisoning with government office. It is not a permitted services. Mentioning of activities forming other business or occupation which are not allowed to member in practice. Suppose what I was discussing, that I am holding some another degree. Now in my website, I write that I am a CA, I provide this is kind of job. Over and above, I am also providing, suppose, counseling to psychiatric patient. Because I am holding such degree, I can provide. I have professional expertise for that. Or I mentioned that I run marathon. I know how to train for the marathons. So I provide that also. I give training for the marathon. In my website, I'm writing. It is not related to CA service. We cannot write this type of thing. And we cannot write anything with any other business profession which are not allowed. So that is mentioned here. Mentioning of activities forming other business or occupation allowed to members in practice. Reference book of author means I wrote this book. I provided teaching services to the member, consult, etc. We cannot write in our CA firm website. We are only we can mention that activity which is allowed for a CA firm to perform, or which is permitted activities. Service provided doesn't mean that I will write each and everything. I can only write which are the permitted service by ICAI, which a CA firm can provide. Now mention of the activities which exceed the purview granted to the member of practice. Example, arrangement of loans. In website, I'm writing with all other activities that I'm doing. We are doing bank audit, we are in corporate audit, we are in GST audit, we are filing income tax, and we are also writing, we are giving services for arrangement of loans. It is not permitted service. We can't write that. Link of organization which do not fall under permitted categories. Example, commercial company. I may be director of some company. I'm holding my family business, but that is not allowed, sir, in CA firm website, because CA firm website only for my CA practice. It is not to promote any other commercial company, even if I am the owner of that. Videos other than educational videos. Example, firm profile, canvassing for elections. It is not allowed, and we saw the practical cases that where there are canvassing for elections, in the video is there in the CA firm website. Mention is subjective claims like having presence, associates in big cities, well-equipped conference office, best quality of services in the market. Again, superiority claiming, we cannot do that. Mentioning CSR contribution donation by the firm, superiority claiming, we cannot write that how much crores of rupees I have contributed for CSR, or donation, my firm or myself as a member I give to the society. It is a very noble word, but we cannot mention the same in our CFM website. Mentioning any kind of affiliation with national or international organization, example, United Nations. Maybe I am affiliated to some international body. My firm is a member of some network of international body. In our website, we cannot mention that. It is not allowed. We can only mention the name of network firm which are registered with ICAI. That is allowed. Mentioning of any award which is given to the CFM. It is again a superiority claim. We cannot do that. Mention of any kind of grading to the firm by the organization, including a regulator or survey agency like Tier 1 firm, Tier 2 firm, CAG Tier 1 or RBI Tier 2. So this type of thing we cannot write. Now, mentioning of a particular role instead of professional services. Example, training. In our website, we are writing that in CFM website, we are writing that that we provide training to the professionals. That we cannot do as a CA firm. We can do the same thing in corporate form of practice, but not under CA firm. Professional services of the firm mentioned in push model and the website running on a push model of technology. Means unwanted information or extra information can be retrieved from the website. That is the push model of technology. Mention of media coverage. Media coverage means in the website, any video or any photographs which is mentioning that the partner of the firm is appearing here. He gives so many lectures about the firms, or our firm has been selected for that particular thing, or our partner appear in a TV show to give the lectures. So this type of media coverage, or our partner writing has been published in this journal or this newspaper. This is the mention of media coverage of the firm. Mention of association of the member with institute, like special invitee in a committee of the institute. So in a write-up, we can write our membership number, our educational qualification, age. All these things is allowed, but we are not able to. We should not write that I was a special invitee in a committee of ICAI. It is not allowed. Mentioning testimonial with client names. In CA firm website, any client name, client logo, mentioning of that services rendered. We render GST services, and we are giving the client names with client logos and all that we serve this is big client. Not allowed, because it is an endamount to advertisement. ISO certification or any other certification or accreditation, you are not allowed to mention it in the CFM website. Using logo of a government department or scheme, example, Startup India. We may provide services, but if we started using that logo, Startup in India like type, that is, we cannot use that government logo. It is also not allowed. Mention of update which do not fall under the category of professional updates, relating to movies, national, international news. This type of update is not allowed. Again, mention of empanelment with any organization, whether for audit or any other assignment. Mention of engagement of the firm in social activity. Mention of feature like why to choose us. Like a write-up is given that why any person choose my CA firm over and above our other CA firm. So this type of write-up not allowed. Mentioning association or reference of any other firm where proprietor or partner may be a partner. So my CA firm, if I give any reference or link to a firm where I am a proprietor, and I am giving that reference in my CA firm website where I am a partner and which is a partnership firm, is not allowed. Advertisement of any commodity, service or entity, like in CA firm website, I may deal with, I may be agent of any beauty product. I can sell that. This may be my side business, but I cannot give the advertisement of that service, commodity or entity in my CA firm website, that I am doing extra, this work extra, and I'm giving this advertisement. It is not allowed. CA firm website only meant for only meant for CA and CA related services. No other thing which is not permitted by ICAI is not allowed. Now, volume 3 of Code of Ethics. What is volume 3? Volume 3 is basically the compilation of case laws. All case laws now available in volume 3 incorporate relevant and decided published case law up to 1st April 2019, both for first schedule and second schedule. Cases have been segregated according to the context or relevance addressed in the index. So if you see volume 3, it is very easy to search that which case law related to which section, which clause. All case law are numbered properly for easy reference. Now we will quickly discuss few case law relating to advertisement guidelines. One is advertisement of congratulations for opening office. In GP Agarwal case, on 30th April 1982, it was an advertisement was published in a newspaper containing members' photograph wherein he was congratulated on the occasion of opening ceremony of his office. He was found guilty by the council and later by High Court of violating this clause, soliciting work by advertisement. And following observation of the High Court may be relevant. The advertisement which has been put in by the member is noticeable one, and the profession of chartered accountancy should maintain high standard of integrity, professional ethics, and efficiency. If soliciting work is allowed, the independence and forthingness of a chartered accountant in discharge of the duties cannot be maintained, and therefore some discipline must be maintained by the profession. So in nowadays, social media is very active. We more and often see in social media, people are posting, opening office, I did that, do that. So be very careful that what you are posting, because it should not be that you are violating some of the rules of CA Act. Now again, a member had an advertisement published in a newspaper regarding inauguration of his professional office, and it was held that having regard to the nature of the advertisement, function organized in that occasion, person invited, medium used, name of various concerns which are conveying their good wishes, the advertisement has been released by the respondent himself, and he had solicited professional work by advertisement, and he was found guilty in terms of this clause. This verdict is come on 1988. Shachindra S. Oswal. Then what I was discussing in website guideline, liaising with government department. Here, chartered accountant has sent a letter to another firm of chartered accountant in which he introduced his firm as a pioneer in liaising with central government ministry and its allied department for getting various government clearances for which he had claimed to have expertise and had given a list of existing clients and details of his staff, etc. And in that case, again, he was guilty under this clause. This verdict came in 1991. Advertisement mentioning administrative ability and availability for retainership. A CA had published an advertisement in 2 newspapers mentioning that he was a senior chartered accountant having administrative ability and was available on retainership for setting of accounts department, internal audit department, or finance management. He was obviously held guilty under the clause, because we cannot advertise mentioning our administrative quality. And it is clearly mentioned in our advertisement guideline. And this disciplinary cases is DM Kothari, and decisions came in 1993. Now, details of services and books written along with New Year greetings. So during New Year, we greet each other. In the greetings, we write our messages. So in this case, that particular CA wrote list of super hit book written by Suresh D. Chauhan, Guide to Win Girls, Income Tax Rate, Contract for any type of bank for institutional loans or deposit. Held that child accountant contravened clause 6 and 7 of part 1 of the first schedule of CA Act in having solicited assignment relating to any type of bank or institutional loans or deposit. So what I was showing you in website guidelines, so it is all was there in our volume case laws and disciplinary cases. So despite of that, we saw that it has been violated by few members in their website. This particular council disciplinary case has been come in 2001. It is recent cases. So with this, I'm more or less done with my presentation. So it is basically, in my presentation, I tried to make you understand that in what way unknowingly we cross the provision of section 6 and section 7, because section 6 and section 7 clearly told that advertisement and solicitation is a bar for our profession. But now what we maybe unknowingly write something or unknowingly doing something which may invite a disciplinary case against us. So be very careful whenever you are representing to anybody or you are giving a representation. Now I will conclude it with few words, like whatever I have discussed. Now few people may think that, because I got sometimes these questions that is it all the bookish thing? Is all this ethics and everything only locked in a book? Do it have any practical, or it is only used when any disciplinary case has been lodged against a member? No, it is not that. I just take another 5 minutes to discuss it. If you see today's new normal, that the coronavirus devastating effect has turned upside down our standard model of office. Now, if you see the recent study, 51% of global workforce are working remotely. Now remote working is also applicable to us in our audit functions, which is very new for us, because we are all very much actually comfortable with on-site audit, going to client place, interaction and all that, and observing their offices and observing, then find out their files and everything. Now remote working is having traits and complements, of course. Lack of interpersonal relationship, absence of honest communication, proper understanding of data, and unknown vibes of audit place, no on-site audit, technological difficulty are contributing majorly in our efficiency nowadays. And we are adopting it. Is, I will not tell that it is efficiency, but we are adopting the practice. We are also encountering the difficulties to adopt this new thing. So as a professional accountant, keeping in mind the fundamental principle of ethics and related traits are very important here. In a recent global study of IIA, Institute for Internal Auditors, these are the 11 potential risks and threats in 2021. These are cybersecurity, third-party relationship monitoring, accuracy of information received by board, sustainability, disruptive innovation, economic and political viability, organizational governance, hinder or support organizational achievement, talent management, data governance, culture, BCP and crisis management. These 11 are the potential risk and threat in 2021, and it is somehow affecting our audit quality also. So as a professional accountant, we need to address this trait based on fundamental principle and audit and ethics. So here our practical application of ethics has come. So with that, I have nothing much to say. I will conclude and I will hand over this session to Jhalani sir. So thank you so much for your patience and listening to me. And in case of any question, please write freely to chat box. I will definitely answer, or Jhalani sir will answer. And please, any doubt come out, because your doubt may help any other person. So thank you
Thank,
so much, sir. I am just stop my sharing.
thank you. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you, Maitri madam, for taking us through such a helpful presentation. It is my pleasure to introduce Shri Vijay Kumar Jhalani, sir, who is a senior chartered accountant qualified in 1982 and presently practicing as an advocate in legal consultancy services. He is currently serving as a Central Council member of ICAI for the term 2019 to 22. In past, he has been nominated as council member of Institute of Company Secretaries as well as Institute of Cost Accountants respectively, and also been a chairman of Northern India Regional Council of ICI in the past, and has been a member of various committees of CA Institute for the year 2021, including Digital Transformation and Process Reengineering Group, Infrastructure Development Committee, Committee of Export of CA Services, and WTO, and 10 other important committees. I welcome Vijay Kumar Jhalani, sir, and request him to please share his guidance for us, to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thanet branch of the ICI. I must say that you have been very courageous to take such topics, code of ethics, because very few of us are interested to listen what should we do and what should not do. Had it been a income tax seminar of my employer under whom I did my articles, Girish Ahuja, I believe that gathering must have been 5 times more, because he tells how to save the clients from income tax. So that is the difference, that we don't think about ourselves, and we are every time bothered to help out our clients. Anyway, now because you have chosen the topic, I have to deliberate on a practical aspect. You see, Maitri has given out the details of all volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. And if you go through volume 2, we find schedule 1 and schedule 2, which talks about, professional and other misconduct. And in schedule 1, for a practicing chartered accountant, there are 12 clauses. For a member who is in service, there are 2 clauses. And third clause, in which 3 kind of misconduct is given, it is applicable to all, both for practicing and for service also. Like in schedule 2 also, for practicing, there are 10 kind of misconduct enumerated, and for service class, there are 4 kinds of misconduct which we feel it is a misconduct. And the last one, which is applicable to all, which is taking the current situation prevailing in the country, I have to explain that also. And that last schedule 2, clause 3, last condition says that if any member found guilty by any court, and that offense is punishable as for more than 6 months imprisonment, that member is supposed to be guilty and his membership may be removed forever. Now I come back to you see, whatever professional misconduct, our conscience tells us when we do such mistakes. I am very much assured of it. The only thing is what we are not aware and can be considered as a other misconduct. That is more, we have to be more careful. I give you one example. It is not an example, it is a case decided by the disciplinary committee of the ICI. A person sold few shares in a physical mode by signing the transfer deed. But what happened for 3, 4, 5 years, the transferee did not get the share transfer in his name, and the transfer who has to be who happens to be a member of the institute used to get dividend for all these 3, 4, 5 years. And one day what he did, he applied for duplicate shares, thinking that nobody has yet claimed these shares and price of that share has gone very sharply. So he applied for duplicate shares, and company issued him duplicate shares also by following the process of law. All of a sudden, the buyer of the shares, he came into picture and he wrote to the company that I bought so much shares from Mr. Vijay Jalani and now please transfer in my name. Company informed him that Mr. So-and-so, Vijay Jalani has taken duplicate share certificate from us and now it is up to you and Vijay Jalani. The buyer made a complaint to the institute with the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee of the institute held the member guilty as other misconduct, because disciplinary committee of the ICI felt it is not good on the part of the member that being a member of the institute, he indulged in such activity. The member concerned went to High Court, and High Court held that Vijay Jalani did not do such a mistake as a chartered accountant. He did these mistakes as an ordinary human being. So High Court absolved Vijay Jalani from the misconduct. As I was in the council when this case was decided, and as a council, we decided to approach the Supreme Court. And finally, in a nutshell, I'm telling you, Supreme Court held the decision taken by the disciplinary committee of the ICI is valid. And because this profession is an elite profession, and any member who belongs to this profession should be well aware that he is a chartered accountant and he should not indulge in such activities. So now I think you are aware, you can understand that our other conduct can also be considered as misconduct. Maitri Roy told you about the guidelines of the websites. 2 years back, me as a government nominee in the council, I started searching few websites of practicing firms, and I found that those firms are not complying with the guidelines of website issued by the Code of Ethical Standard Board of the ICI. I took up the issue with the then president, and he formed a committee of which I was a convener, and I took the help of Maitri Roy, and we searched about 120 websites of CA firms, and we came across the lot of violations which Maitri have given in her PPT presentation also, which are not in compliance of the Code of Ethics guidelines. Like I tell you about one firm, that firm website says, CA firm website says that the group is having, associated with, group has its own real estate division for development of properties. Group has one company which deals in share securities. And these all were written in the website of the CA firm. This is not allowed as per our website guidelines. Maitri told about the pull mode and push mode also. I tell you, pull mode is that you give your basic details, what kind of services you provide, and if client like your biodata through your website, client may question you, send you the questionnaire that please tell us how much fees you charge for filing a tax return, or which is your biggest client. If there is a request comes from the viewer of your website, then you can reply. It is called pull request. Push request is all these information you yourself are providing in your website, which is not allowed. Nowadays, there have been more cases of other misconduct than the given in the schedule. In schedule, it was very, you can very well remember, every member can rather remember that in schedule 1, there are 12 clauses which belongs to the members, practicing members, as I already told, 2 clauses which belong to service class, and 3 clauses which belongs to, which may be applicable to practicing as well as service clause also. The difference between schedule 1 and schedule 2, you must remember, is that if any of us have done any misconduct which is covered under schedule 1, the impact is lesser than if we commit any misconduct which is covered in schedule 2. In schedule 1 misconduct, disciplinary committee may take a lenient view, like, by leaving you, giving a warning, by reprimanding you, like that. But if you are covered, we have done something, some misconduct which is covered in schedule 2, the punishment is harsh. So that much we have to understand. Point is, why do we need code of ethics? Every regulated profession had its own code of ethics, but do we follow it? Do we want to follow it? Or we may claim that we already follow it, or we may say that nothing will happen if we don't follow it. These are the silly situation, and any of us can accept any of the situation. You may claim that you already follow. You may say nothing will happen if I don't follow. And you may say when situation will come, we will face it. But let me tell you, friends, I have the experience of all the 3 institutes as a government nominee in the council appointed by Government of India. Whatever we do something which is not as per the act or as per the code of ethics, our conscience tells us first. We know it, that something which is not correct we are doing. And then we try to pacify ourselves. दूसरे भी तो कर रहे हैं, हम कर लेंगे तो क्या हो जाएगा, और कौन सा इंस्टीट्यूट देखने आ रही है. Yes, you are right. When Mr. Yashwant Sinha was finance minister, I was attending a conference in which he was speaking on income tax. Somebody asked कि सर जो income tax देते हैं उनको तो आप ज्यादा परेशान करते रहते हैं, और जो लोग income tax की रिटर्न ही नहीं फाइल करते हैं उनका आप कुछ नहीं कर पाते हैं. The then finance minister told the crowd, yes, you are right. We are taking any action only against those who are filing the return. You are right. But if you want, you also don't find, but the day when we will catch you, then we will take the account of all the years from you. So to start with, I want to say that every professional colleague, whether he is in service or is in practice, must be aware that he is a member of this elite profession, that is a chartered accountancy, and every action of ours has to be in compliance of our code of ethics. If it is not, then if any complaint received by the disciplinary committee, then disciplinary committee deals it as per the code of ethics. Then we see whether you have followed the condition or not. Writing on your website that you are expert in negotiating with the government authorities, the writer himself knows that he is doing some mistake. He cannot write it, but still he writes. That is the problem with us. Knowingly that this is not supposed to be written, that we are expert in negotiating with government offices, and still we are writing on our website, it creates a problem if somebody files a proper complaint claiming that you are donating so much rupees to so temple. You gave the name of the temple also in your firm's website. It is not ethical. You must have done some certification of Reliance Industries in past last 10 years, and must have taken 5,000 or 10,000 rupees. But you are putting Reliance logo on your website, the details of client. And it is not, I'm giving the assumption, we have seen it while searching the website of 120 firms. And while again I'm telling you, while putting the Reliance logo, we know it, we should not put it. Secondly, I want to ask from you, one of you, every one of you, that please let me know, are we getting clients by writing unnecessary things which are not allowed on our websites? If we feel that your practice has become double, triple, just because whatever you have written on your website, your clients are coming to you, then at least I can ask the council to reconsider. Because definitely I also want that every professional brother earns his bread and butter. But what we analyze is, it does not affect our profession by writing such things on our website which are not allowed by the Code of Conduct. So friends, again I am telling you, because I want to give more time for question answer, because the topic is such that one needs to clarify what member has in mind. So that's why I will not detail out much, because Maitri has given all the details of what is required, what is not required. Only thing is that what we have found is, while searching the website, claiming that you are expert in a particular field is not desirable. You may say you deal with income tax, you deal with GST, one of the top firm of India, one of the best firm in the world. Such mentioning of such words is not allowed as per our Code of Ethics. And one more thing I want to tell every one of you who are right now attending as participants, that if you have any query, whether which is related to Code of Ethics, you want to ask whether you can do it or not, you are welcome. You can write to the secretary of our Ethical Standard Board. And whenever we have our meeting, all such queries are discussed in the meeting of the Ethical Standard Board, and we give due reply also. Like recently, we got one query from a practicing member that there is a trust, and that trust runs a school. And in that school, my wife is a vice principal. Can I do the audit of that trust or not? And we, in the Ethical Standard Board, we discussed the issue, and we came out with a conclusion that there can be a threat of independence to the chartered accountant. So we advised him, please do not accept such audit in this situation. So like that, if any member wants to have any query, to ask anything which he thinks he may or may not be allowed, you can write to the Ethical Standard Board secretary on online, and we discuss the things in our meetings, and we give due reply. So with these words, I think it is better if we go to question answer session. So I request the organizer, he may take up the question answers through the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions? I don't see any questions on in the chat box. Hello, participants, any questions from your side?
I give you one more example in the meantime, if when you collect the questions. which is also very important for us to see what is happening. There was a case with the disciplinary committee in which the complaint was that a chartered accountant, by using his digital signature, filed forms with the register of companies, that time Form 32, appointment and resignation of directors, and appointed 2 additional directors by uploading the form through his digital signature. And next day, again he uploaded one Form 32 by his digital signature, removing the original directors from the company. Through this process, the so-called new additional directors, they took away the control and possession of the company on papers, and the company was having a piece of land in South Delhi worth crores of rupees. When the actual owners, who were the directors of the company, somehow visited the ROC site and came to know that somebody has made their bogus digital signature of original directors, and through that took the help of that chartered accountant by uploading these 2 forms, one for appointment and one for their resignation. The case went to the economic cell of the Delhi police because the amount involved was 2 crore. Whenever the amount of fraud is more than 2 crore, economic offensing can come into picture. And the chartered accountant was behind the bar for about 6 months because of allowing such form through his digital signature, uploading the form with ROC office. So this mistake can happen with any of us also, because sometimes our digital signatures are lying with our office, and our office staff is accessible with our digital signatures, and knowingly or unknowingly our office staff may also get involved in such fraud. So digital signature is our signed blank check. You can take it like this. So we have to be careful that somebody may not misuse, because in CA Institute disciplinary cases, the chartered accountant, what he claimed was that somebody else misuses digital signature. That's why council disciplinary committee took some lenient view and he was reprimanded. But before that, he was behind the bar for more than 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. As such, there are no questions available on the chat box. So I would assume that the students have, the participants.
Please ask the question. Is there any question or not?
No, sir. There is no question.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay
sir.
then.
Yes, sir. So I'll start
Can we
with the,
conclude?
I'll start with the vote of thanks now. So thank you very much, sir, to you and Maitri madam to take us through such a wonderful and helpful presentation. And as we see, there are no questions. So that means that everyone is very clear with the presentation points. Yeah, and I would also like to extend this vote of thanks to the managing committee members, to the branch of Thane staff, Rupa ma'am and Sanjay sir, and to all the participants who have taken out time to join this session. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.